Welcome to Diecast Restos. I'm Jason, and this week I'm again revisiting another old project of mine. My first custom, in fact, from my third ever video. I customised one of these Matchbox BMW 323i Cabriolets in the style of my brother's car. However, it was very early days for me, and my effort wasn't the best. Despite that, the video remains my third best performing on YouTube at the time of recording. Here's a look at my brother's car, with me and him both on my wedding day in 2018. As it's Diecast Resto's 5th anniversary, I've been revisiting a few of my older works from 2019. I will insert a few clips comparing my efforts throughout the video as I look to improve on my performance from back then. Originally, I didn't remove the Baur style roof, opting to simply paint it white instead. I've got some custom wheels and decals for it to really help set it off. Hopefully, this time around my efforts will be more reflective of the real car. Matchbox introduced the model in 1985, painted blue with a brown plastic interior. This variation lasted only 1 year, featuring the dot dash style wheels and no tow hook. It had 323i tampos on both sides, and this carried forward to the 1986 red recolour. It now had a dark tan interior, and its wheels were either the 5-arch style or silver or gold 8 dots. For the 1987 to 1991 mainline model, it had a tow hook added, but only came with the silver variety of 8-dot wheels. During this period, it also had some additional variations. In 1987, the UK received a white mainline model otherwise identical to the red car, except it had a BMW badge on the bonnet. Away from the mainline, the 323i was released in the Superfast line for 1986. This was painted white with red and light and dark blue blocks of colour and Alpina branding. This exact model was used in the 1987 Laser Wheels release, except that the Starburst Superfast wheels were replaced by the Laser's discs. In 1988, there was a promotional BP issue in blue, which had a black interior, yellow 323i tampos on the sides and bonnet, and BP shields on the rear quarters. You're about to witness the removal of the Baur roof segment of my model. This is the part that I overlooked in the original video, instead opting to keep it in situ. The BMW casting also featured prominently in the Twin Pack series, accompanied by a trailer. A 1987 issue saw a red 323i towing a glider. The car had white gliding club tampos on each side. Between 1989 and 1992, a silver car with a grey interior and dark blue side tampos towed a silver Caravan, or a white car with pink, orange and blue tampos towed a matching white Caravan. The final 1991 Twin Pack variation was another white 323i with a grey interior, this time with red and dark blue block tampos to each side. This towed an inflatable dinghy. Additionally, a multi-pack featuring the BMW and matching Caravan, as well as the inflatable boat, was released for 1991. Here you'll see I'm making indentations in the top of the doors, as the casting line previously didn't exist due to the Baur roof. There's plenty of filing and rubbing down to be done to get this looking as it should in reality. When it comes to the windows, I originally thought I'd cut down the plastic transparency to just the windscreen and quarter panel. However, one interesting quirk about my brother's car is that I don't think the windows retract. They certainly never used to anyway. In both photos I've posted in this video, they remain raised. So all I've done with it is remove the connecting piece of plastic that was hidden by the Baur roof and then smoothed it off. Plus, this time I'm also getting rid of that tow hook. The E30 was the second generation of 3 Series BMW introduced in 1982. It replaced the Paul Bracq designed E21, with development commencing on the car in 1976. Chief designer Klaus Luther led the project, with Boyka Boya in charge of exterior styling. The final design was approved in 1978 after using computer-aided design and wind tunnel testing. Visually, the E30 is quite similar to the E21s fitted with twin headlamps, though the most major changes occurred with the interior and with revised suspension to mitigate the oversteer the E21 suffered. While the E21 was only offered as a two-door sedan, or with the Baur top Cabriolet conversion, the E30 was available as a four-door sedan on launch. A factory convertible joined Baur's offering in 1985, and a five-door estate called the Touring started production in 1987. It carried over engines from the E21 in the form of the M10 4-cylinder and M20 6-cylinder units. On launch were the 316 and 318i 1.8 litre 4-cylinder engines. In 6-cylinder form were the 320i 2 litre or the 323i 2.3 litre engines. In 1983, the M21 2.4 litre straight-six turbo diesel 324TD was added to the range. Then in 1985, it was joined by the non-turbo 324D. Also joining in 1985 were the carburetted 2.7 litre M20 in the 325E and ES models, or a 2.5 litre straight-six for the 325i, IS and IX. The 316 was replaced by the 316i and fitted with the new M40 1.6 litre straight 4. The 318i also received a 1.8 litre M40 unit. Finally, the 318IS launched in 1989 with the 4-cylinder M42 engine. I won't go into details about the M3 editions, that'll be for a separate video I think. Transmissions were a 4-speed manual on the 316 and 318i models, or a 5-speed manual across all models, with a 3-speed automatic gearbox available up to 1985. A 4-speed automatic was available on the 320i and 323i until this point, after which it was available on all models. The first all-wheel drive BMW was the 325iX, which was introduced in 1986. All other models were rear-wheel drive. E30s had vented disc brakes at the front, though some early 316 and 318s had solid discs. Solid discs were utilised at the rear, except again some early models had rear drum brakes. ABS became available in 1986. On 1984 to 1987 US cars, the bumpers were protruding aluminium front and rear, though these were replaced for the 1989 model year by body-coloured plastic ones. Assembly of the E30 was predominantly in Bavaria at the Munich and Regensburg plants. However, production also took place at Roslin in South Africa. Here, only 2- and 4-door sedans were built, using only the M10 4-cylinder engines through to 1992. South Africa also had its own special models. The racing division there created the 333i in 1985 by fitting the 3.2 litre M30 Big 6 engine to a 2-door car. Alpina assisted in production, and the resulting car was a success in South African saloon car racing. Due to the large engine, buyers had to choose between air conditioning or power steering when speccing out their production 333i. 204 cars were produced to 1987. Additionally, the South Africa 325IS differed from the same model elsewhere for Group N production racing. Other unique models were the 4-cylinder 320IS, which was produced for Portugal and Italy due to high tax rates there on cars exceeding 2000cc. These 2- or 4-door saloons were built from 1987 until 1991. These also had M3 gauge clusters. In Australia, a 323i John Player Special Edition was offered as a tribute to the M3s competing in local touring car racing. These had the iconic black with gold pinstriping paintwork, BBS wheels and Recaro seats, among other features. And in New Zealand, where the M3 was not offered, an M325i was imported featuring M Division tuned suspension, M Technic bodywork, BBS wheels and a limited slip differential. It was sold from 1986 to 1990, similar to a British market 325i Sport that was developed due to the absence of a right-hand drive M3. With the introduction of the E36 3 Series in 1990, E30 production began to wind down. Sedan production ended in 1991, with the final touring model being built in 1994. Overall, more than 2.4 million E30 BMW 3 Series were made, spanning 12 years of production. My brother's car has been a bit of a work in progress for a number of years. It was bought around 7 or so years ago with a few faults. First, it had issues with its engine. It is a 316i, so has the M40 1.6 litre 4-cylinder engine. I can't remember exactly what the matter with it was, but I certainly remember the head being completely disassembled in the garage spreading to the garden. But he and my dad managed to get it running, and he eventually got to drive me in it for my wedding day in 2018. However, in 2020 it failed its MOT test due to corrosion to the sills, which has since been repaired recently. He hopes to have it back on the road soon, ready for his own wedding later this year. Now though, I'm having some real trouble with these decals. You can see how they are simply refusing to stick. And it wasn't exclusively the rear light clusters either, as I had problems with the grille and turn signal decals. Funnily enough, the BMW emblems I printed myself for the bonnet and boot lid adhered as they should, no problem at all. But I thought if I get everything in position and then coat with my trusty Mr. Mark Softer solution, it should help out until it comes to clear coating later on. Those rear clusters refuse to wrap around the body as they should, sticking out completely flat, even with the Mr. Mark. Still, they continue to shift all over the place. I really quite enjoy decal application. It used to fill me with dread worrying about what to do if something went wrong. But these days I'm quite confident with them and will happily sit down for a good couple of hours fitting them on bigger projects. This though was a complete nightmare. It's so frustrating when there's just no adhesion to be found. Again, these decals that I printed myself stick to this styrene sheet perfectly. In the end, I gave up on the turn signals and simply decided to use my typical chrome base, orange Sharpie and Citadel gloss and Alloy oil method. Here I'm overlaying the styrene mounted registration plate over the moulded one of the plastic piece. This is so simple yet effective in giving the model a realistic look, so much so that I do the same for the rear. And still, those light cluster decals refuse to conform to the body. My last hope is that the clear lacquer pushes and locks them down. But for the front, I have given up with the decals entirely, instead deciding to just use Citadel gloss for the lighting. It's time to clear coat. Let's see that again. Yes, after all that, the light cluster decal blew away with the first distant blast of clear lacquer. I never found it, so I had to resort to my good old tried and tested techniques. A chrome base, red and orange Sharpie over the top, some extra line detail drawn in with my Pigma Micron 0.2mm pen, and then Citadel gloss again. Still, it's better this way than how I used to do it with thick Tamiya paints and a thin brush. It's certainly better than dodgy decals too. Here I noticed that the bottom of the sills peek through and should be black, so I draw it in with my Artistro paint pen, and then both body and base receive their final couple of coats of clear. I took a long time in deciding what wheels best replicate the bottle cap style my brother has on his car. I chose these from the ever excellent Diecast Details shop on Facebook, and I think they look the business. They're a bit too big for a realistic replica, but they will certainly fill the wheel arches completely. I coat them in TS17 gloss aluminium and can then begin drawing on the 4 lugs and 4 pattern holes that separate each. I placed a couple of millimetre thick styrene sheet offcuts under each axle to lower the ride height to a desirable level. This still allowed the suspension to travel a little too. These blue end caps cap off the build. So here are all of the parts that make up the converted convertible. Just a word on the Baur conversions here. They used a targa top with an independent soft top which folded away into the trunk, leaving the targa frame intact. I got rid of that entirely to more accurately reflect the BMW factory convertible. But now it's all back together and can be screwed secure with two M2 screws. This is how my Matchbox BMW 323i Cabriolet looked before I hacked its Baur roof off. I needed to lose that if I wanted to more accurately reflect my brother's 316i convertible. I left it in place when I customised one for him in my first ever custom in only my third ever YouTube video. That was 5 years ago and I've honed my skills a tad since then. So let's take a look at my efforts this time and compare the two. I lost the Baur targa roof, but I kept the raised windows as a nod to my brother's car, since they don't retract properly on the real thing. That plastic window piece I've given the UV treatment to remove 30 odd years of yellowing. I adore the Diecast Details wheels I've chosen to replicate larger versions of the bottle cap wheels. After little success with the decals, I had to draw in the lights in the end. But I think the front definitely looks nicer with the moulded plastic detailed instead of the water slide. Tell me what you think about my second attempt at this custom in the comments. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and if you'd like to see more, please support the channel through YouTube memberships or Patreon if you at all can. My sincere thanks go out to my existing supporters. Don't forget to give the video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. So all that leaves me to say is thank you for watching, and I will see you again soon for the next one. Bye for now.